Hello everyone, welcome back to another Star Wars Destiny video. Today Fantasy Flight released a few more spoilers for Spark of Hope. We have the little card fan here. So the only card not spoiled in today's article is the TL50 Heavy Repeater. So it's only partially spoiled here. So we looks like we have a 3 range for a resource, a 2 range, and a special. It's an upgrade weapon. Probably going to be a villain weapon, I would imagine. Power action, and this upgrade is on a trooper die. Turn this die to any side. So we have that. And then there's the special. Looks like it's something to do with indirect damage. Then re-roll this die instead of removing it is what I believe that says. So that's the TL50 Heavy Repeater. We don't have the full sides on it yet, but we do look like we have a 2 range, a 3 range for a resource, and the special. All the other cards in this card fan are fully spoiled in the article, so we're just going to go through those cards one by one. Going to give my thoughts on the cards and let you know what I think. So we're going to move into our very first card here. And our first card up is Order 66, Blue Villain Plot, 2 points. So you can build a 28-point team and include this 2-point plot on that team to make it 30. Each of your opponent's characters gains Jedi. Before you draw your starting hand, shuffle up to 4 set-aside copies of Execute Order 66, card number 27, into your deck. So this costs 2, and then it lets you have 4 copies of that Execute Order 66 that are set aside, shuffled into the deck. So it looks like you can go to 34 cards, or a 34 card deck with this. I'm not exactly sure. But yeah, you have your deck, you have this, you then shuffle those cards in, and then you draw your starting hand. So that is Order 66. We're going to move into our next card, which is going to be Execute Order 66. So we'll be right back with that card. And here is Execute Order 66. 2 resources, red villain event. So it looks like your team has to be both red and blue to be able to use that plot with this event. So again, 2 resources. Remove all Jedi dice. For each die removed, deal 1 damage to its matching character. So basically this turns, Order 66 turns all of your opponent's characters, gives them the Jedi subtype, and then this event, Execute Order 66, lets you remove all dice that are, basically all character dice that are Jedi subtypes. So basically all your opponent's character dice that are rolled out get removed, and then each of those characters will take 1 damage for each die removed. So let's say they have 3 character dice in play, 2 from one character, 1 from another. You play this, you remove all 3 of those dice. The one character that had 2 dice rolled out takes 2 damage. The other character takes 1. Interesting event, especially with the plot, which lets you basically run 4 of this instead of just 2. So it looks like you can use this without the plot. However, the plot makes it more effective because the plot makes all your opponent's characters Jedi characters, regardless if they were Jedi or not. So Execute Order 66 could be interesting. I don't know if it's going to see play in the metagame. It might, depending on decks that like run a lot of resource generation, might be able to pull this off like several times in the game, to where you're removing a bunch of dice and doing damage as well. So that is Execute Order 66. We're going to move into our next card. And next up, we have Chain Lightning, 1 resource, neutral red event. Deal 1 damage to a character. Then you may spend the resource to deal 2 damage to another character that shares a subtype with that character. So this could be played against trooper decks. So if you're running a deck that is, or your opponent is running a deck that is all troopers, your opponent can play this. They'll do a damage to one of your characters, one of your trooper characters, and then they can spend the resource to deal 2 damage to another character or another trooper, basically. This also works well with the Order 66 plot because it makes everything Jedi. So basically, you're going to spend the resource, deal 1 damage to a character, a Jedi, because that event makes all that stuff, all the characters Jedi, and then you spend the resource to deal 2 damage to another character that will now share that subtype, which will be Jedi because the plot gives them that subtype. So that is Chain Lightning. We're going to move into our next card. Next up, we have Rally the Troops, 0 resources, red villain event. Choose a character subtype, then either reroll any number of dice that have that subtype, or resolve 2 of your dice that have that subtype. Again, this works with Order 66 as well, because let's say you play that, all your opponent's characters are Jedi. You now, let's say they have all their Jedi characters rolled out onto high damage sides. You can play this event and re-roll all their Jedi dice, hoping to get worse results than they already had. Or again, with your own deck, if you're like, let's say running a Trooper deck, you can use this to again re-roll all your Trooper dice or resolve 2 of your Trooper dice. So let's say you have a Trooper die that is showing range damage, for let's say range damage for a resource, and another Trooper die that has a resource on it. You can play this event, resolve the resource, then spend the resource to resolve that resource costed side on one of your dice, or use it to do a special and then do something else with the other die. Interesting because it works well with re-rolling your opponent's stuff, and also works well with resolving your own stuff because it's choose a character subtype, and this says re-roll any number of dice that have that subtype. So it doesn't specify if it has to be yours or your opponent's. So you get to re-roll your opponent's stuff and hopefully make it worse. Re-roll your stuff and hopefully get better results, or resolve 2 of your dice that have that type. So that is Rally the Troops. We're going to move into our next card. And next up we have Seizing Territory, 0 resources, neutral red event. Gives you ambush, so you get an extra event or an extra action after you play it. Spot a trooper to take control of the battlefield. So let's say you have an event you want to play that is reliant on having the battlefield. Play this, spot your trooper, take control of the battlefield, and then use that ambush action to play the event that requires you to control the battlefield. Pretty solid way to take control of the battlefield here. Could work well in like a clone trooper deck with Rex, which also lets you take control of the battlefield. But this is another way to gain control of the battlefield with that. So pretty simple card there. So that is Seizing Territory. We're going to move into our next card. And next up we have Acceptable Losses, 0 resources, Gray Villain Event. Defeat up to 3 of your characters to gain that many resources. And of course we got the battle droids on the card art here. So basically, defeat 3 battle droids to get 3 resources. I think this is going to be like a very late game card where you just need, let's say, like enough resources to pay for a damaged side that could win you the game. You defeat your 3 characters. You hopefully have other characters. You have characters that are still left. Defeat, like say, 3 battle droids. Get 3 resources, and then use those resources to play an upgrade on a character that you still have alive, or pay for a resource cost aside on a die, and so on. I see this being a very late game card, to where you just need to get 1 or 2 more resources to basically guarantee a win. So that is Acceptable Losses. We're going to move into our next card. And next up we have Jango Fett, Armed to the Teeth, 11 health, 12 or 14 points, yellow villain, bounty hunter character subtype, 1 range, 2 range, melee, resource, 2 resources for a resource, a blank, and each equipment on this character does not count towards its upgrade limit. And after you play an equipment on this character for the first time each round, you may gain 1 resource. So just comparing it to, I'm going to bring up an image of I'm going to a side-by-side comparison of the original one in just a moment. But so from what I remember, increased health, I think the original Jango had 10 health. I think the points are lower by a couple points at least. I think at least the elite cost. I remember the elite cost I think was like 16 or something. So I think it was like 12-16 or something like that. This is 12-14, so his cost is a little bit lower for the elite. And I think his sides are pretty much identical, with the exception of, I remember him having a modified resource side instead of this 2 for a resource. No ability to roll him in though. The original Jango was really awesome because if your opponent activated a character, you in response got to activate Jango on your turn. This doesn't have that, and I'm not sure how I feel about these cards that allow you to basically get over the upgrade limit. Because as soon as your opponent just sees you starting stacking upgrades on that character, they are going to focus on that character and just kill that character. And then I believe there's the, I don't know if it's called the Mind Probe or whatever it is from I think it's from Convergence. It was the downgrade that basically got rid of the text box on your character. So if they play that on Jango, he would not have the ability to keep stacking equipment beyond his upgrade limit. And if you played an equipment on him, you wouldn't gain a resource until you got rid of that downgrade. I think you get rid of that downgrade by exhausting the character. So say exhaust the character, don't activate it to get rid of the downgrade, but then you are going to be behind in actions. one thing that was really cool about the original was that it gave you basically an activation on your opponent's turn that allowed you to kind of get one step ahead of your opponent, because you could roll in on their turn, and then when it goes to your turn, instead of activating the character, you are just resolving his dice. But the sides are okay. I think for a legendary, I think the sides are, I would rather have seen, instead of a 1, a 2, and a 1, maybe have one of those sides be either the range or the melee be a 2 instead of a 1. I'm not really sure, because the other one was just a rare. This is a legendary. But that being said, though, it does have decreased points and higher health. So I'm going to bring up an image of both this Jango and the original Jango. We'll do a side-by-side comparison. I'm not sure which one I'm going to like more, because this one, again, with this ability to keep stacking upgrades on him, your opponents are just going to see what you're doing and then just focus on getting rid of Jango. But we'll be right back with that in just a second. Alright, and here we are with our side-by-side comparison of the original Jango Fett from Awakenings and the new Jango Fett from Spark of Hope. So Jango Fett, Lethal Mercenary, 10 health, 12 or 16 points, 1 range, 2 range melee resource, plus 1 resource and blank. It's a character, doesn't have any kind of subtypes to it, because those didn't exist when that set came out. After an opponent activates a character, you may activate this character. So very strong effect there. Jango Fett, Armed to the Teeth, again 11 health, so 1 more health, 12 or 14 points. So the points are 2 less, single die cost is still the same, and then sides are pretty much identical. So 1 range on each, 2 range on each, melee on each, resource on each, and only difference, like I said earlier, is the +1 resource is now been replaced with a 2 resources for 1 resource, and the new one, of course, has the Bounty Hunter subtype and a new ability. I kind of think the ability of the original is a little bit stronger. Being able to just like stack resources on something, because at that point, unless we get like a lot of really good equipment in this set, I don't know how well or how good Jango's going to be. I still think, I guess if I had to like choose, I kind of still like the original one a little bit more, even though it does cost 2 more points and have a one more health or 1 less health. Just the ability to roll in on your opponent's turn is huge. Maybe they'll do an upgrade or an equipment on Jango that basically gives him that ability, but we'll have to wait and see what they do with that. Some kind of, I don't know, maybe the jetpack upgrade, if they redo that, not a reprint of the actual jetpack from Awakenings, but a different jetpack that says attached character gets the ability to activate when opponents activate or something like that. That would be kind of cool. So that would actually then make the newer Jango a little bit better, but then at the same time, it would be an upgrade that you would have to take in actions and play on your character instead of it just being a built-in effect like the original one had. So again, that being the original Jango and the new Jango side by side, at current time, I still like the original one a little bit more. We're going to move into our next card. Next up, we have Gauntlet Rockets, 3 resources, yellow villain upgrade equipment, so this will go well on Jango. 1 range, 2 range, 3 range, plus 4 range, 2 disrupt and a blank. Bounty Hunter only, so it can only be played on Bounty Hunters. Action, choose a character, turn this die to his side, showing a value equal to or less than the number of bounties on that character. So basically, this rewards you for stacking bounties on your opponent's characters. So if I have a bounty on one of my opponent's characters, I can turn this die to like the 1 range. If they have 2 bounties on a character, I can turn it to the 2, 3 bounties turns it to 3, and so on. Or then you could also just roll in and hope you get a high damage amount. But being able to kind of focus it depending on how many bounties are on the character is a pretty cool effect. 3 resources I think is probably fair for this, because the action lets you basically focus it depending on how many bounties they have. And then we have 4 damage sides, plus a 2 disrupt, which is nice. So 4 range damage sides, all of them black except for the 1 plus the +4. Then you might have ways to resolve that +4 as if it weren't modified either. So that wrist rocket, or not wrist rockets, those are the Jango or the Boba Fett ones. But Gauntlet Rockets are pretty interesting. So that's that. We're going to move into our next card. Next up, we have Sinister Ruse, 1 resource, blue villain event. Reveal a random card in an opponent's hand and deal indirect damage to them equal to the cost of the revealed card. So if you have some way to get knowledge of your opponent's hand, that will help you in playing this card. So basically, you play this, they reveal a random card. Whatever the card costs, if it's resource cost, they take that much indirect damage. It can be hit or miss, but you want to pair it with something that lets you basically get knowledge of your opponent's hand, maybe discard cards out of their hand so that they only have high value cards left, and then you hit them with this and they take potentially a bunch of indirect damage. So that is Sinister Ruse. We're going to move into our next card. And the final card for this video is Chancellors Edict. It's a downgrade bounty, 1 resource, blue villain. After this downgrade is played, remove all shields from the attached character. After the attached character is defeated, you may give a character 2 shields. So I can see this working well against decks that just stack shields, like Qui-Gon decks and things like that, or newer Qui-Gon decks that just allow you to get a massive amount of shields. So you play 1 resource, play this on Qui-Gon, remove all the shields, and then potentially have hopefully enough damage on board to defeat Qui-Gon, and then get 2 shields on yourself as well. I played against a Qui-Gon deck at, I think it was the regionals, it was a Yoda Qui-Gon deck. I got rid of the Yoda fairly easily, but then Qui-Gon was just able to constantly shield himself and do a massive amount of damage, and I wasn't able to get through to defeat him because he had a ton of shields. So this would allow me to basically play it on him, get rid of all the shields, and then hopefully defeat him and then gain two shields of my own. So that is Chancellor's Edict. That's the last card for today. We'll be back with more Star Wars Destiny spoilers as Fantasy Flight releases them. Until then, I want to thank you for watching. Remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Thanks again for watching, and take care.